So, what I've been thinking about recently is this whole thing where we have a reality that's sold to us, a reality where we have a democratic, free system of governance, and that our government works for us and not for corporations and foreign nations, and that we actually live in a country with national sovereignty. And we trust that government not to abuse us and not to farm. But recently, we're starting to see our actual reality, starting to pull back the layers of this reality that they put a show on for us. And we're starting to see how much of a lie it is. But that's not stopping them in the least from continuing on with the show as if we're not looking at them and seeing right through the charade. And what this made me think of really is George Orwell's book, 1984. And a lot of times when I hear people talking about this book, they're saying things like he was seeing into the future because he's describing our actual reality, the reality that's behind the fake reality they want us to believe we're living in. And a lot of things in the book were somewhat science fiction for the time period he was writing it. He was talking about the telly screens, pretty much watching every single thing people were doing, and about the thought police and how people were just vaporized if they committed a thought crime. And there weren't any actual laws, but if somebody broke a unwritten law that they didn't know about, they were sure to be picked up by those thought police. And another thing that I've been seeing in our current time is this whole thing where he was working on minimizing the language. There was a whole ministry for that where they would remove certain words that provided too much freedom of expression. And if those words were removed, people couldn't say things that might offend the party. But how I see the book is that it was very likely that he wasn't seeing into the future, but rather that he was seeing what was happening back then. And not necessarily that he was seeing it, but that he was sensing it. He was sensing that that was the world he already lived in. And if you look at the time periods that he was writing and when he was alive, you had authoritarian communism and you had Nazi fascism. So there were a lot of really messed up things going on and I'm sure he didn't know every single thing happening behind the scenes, but we have a lot of clues just by what we've learned about the history of those times, like the gulags and the Stasi Nazi tactics used by the SS. So there's all sorts of indicators that maybe he was writing about things that were actually happening. And we can't really guess of whether he actually believes that was the reality he was living in, or whether he believed that his writing was fiction. But looking forward, where we're in this dystopian future that he was envisioning, and we're noticing it, and we're seeing it, and we're realizing that the mainstream reality that's sold to us is a manufactured reality. The question is, what do we do with that? Do we just continue to live that manufactured reality that they keep putting a show on for us? Or do we work towards opening people's eyes to the actual reality? Because seeing that actual reality and understanding that that's what's actually happening might be the only way that we break free from it and create a reality that actually works for us.